I agree with Braxophone. So I think he touched base on a lot of good freaking points in regards to this. But the pay to win was just, or like the pay for convenience was just extending too far out. They don't need to do that. They can add them if they want to China because that's how the Eastern influences are. But Western,
We just got a ridiculous amount of news for Blue Protocol Star
the amount of waifu things he has in his background, that's crazy.
Resonance. I'm talking like they just told us so many different things they plan to do with the game, which is awesome. But actually, there is something more important than just the dev letter that we need to talk about because it's finally here. Like we finally have news on this. Blue Protocol Star Resonance is going to be releasing July in China. We don't actually know when it's coming out for global yet. So here's the deal. You guys know that I'm not a fan of not simultaneous releases. I think releasing games simultaneously in multiple regions is the way to go. If you don't do that,
The music he's listening to right now is from Final Fantasy 14, I could tell.
the regions that come late don't really have an interest in playing a lot of the time. You can make some cases for games like FGO, for example, where like people will still play on NA servers, but a lot of people in NA still play on JP servers. And ultimately, the game in NA is a lot less popular than it is in JP. Now, part of that's the IP, but the main point that I'm trying to make here is that when games release not at the same time in all of the regions, the later regions tend to not like the games as much because all of the news, all of the info, and everything that happens is always behind. Now, if you can release the game and the patch is at the same, like,
That I understand. Throne of Liberty is a product of that. For
it's
sure.
on the same patch as the other game, it's not as bad. Like it's fine, but it's not perfect. So we'll have to see what happens with Star Resonance. Oh, by the way, I didn't actually pull this up, but let me show this to you guys real quick. Here is a screenshot of the website. So this is a Star Resonance site, I guess. See, to be honest, I can't read any of this, but my secret helper friend Google Translate can help me translate all of this using the power of a photo. And I don't know how to get this stuff out of the way of my screen, but if you translate it, it says Star Resonance will be releasing on both platforms.
Guys, a good translator, if you're ever playing a foreign game, is Youdao, at least for Chinese. Youdao.
So that's a big deal. Now, the problem is, once again, that we don't know if this is going to affect global. And I don't think it is because they haven't announced it, but maybe they're just waiting. Maybe they are going to release it at the same time. Here's the thing. If they don't release Star Resonance alongside global at the same time, I can already tell you without a shadow of a doubt, the game is going to be much less popular than if you do it at the same time because people over here in the West, we don't like to wait, right? Like we don't want to sit here and watch everyone else have fun and then have to struggle to catch up to them, which is never going to happen because they're always going to be ahead of us. So hopefully that's not the case. But I do know that there are plenty of people that even if the game releases later for global, they will still be playing. So fingers crossed it's a simultaneous release, but if it's not, I do think that'll hurt the game quite a bit. But that's actually not the only thing there is to talk about.
Now, hear me out. If it's just like a month or max 2 months, max a quarter, there's still hype. Just not as much as if it was because everybody's getting their footage through streamers that are doing it in China. But so there's that. So I would say that it either needs to be the same month or like even just 1 month after. I think Throne and Liberty was like 8 months after. That is a huge hype and then low, and then you wait forever and then huge hype. That was a pretty big gap.
Among the dev letter, there was some news about the game systems and stuff, which I haven't covered a ton on this channel because I knew that they were going to be changing from beta anyways. So I don't really want to go into the systems too much. There is one specific thing though that I need to talk about. I tweeted out about it earlier today. I felt like the tweet was a little aggressive, so I deleted it, but I am going to talk about it on this video. Star Resonance is testing an in-game system where they added something that was previously gear into a gacha system. Now, they didn't give us a ton of details, and I really wish they would have, because as someone that is a global player, when a game company says, hey, we're adding this thing that used to be gear to gacha, and they don't include the words used to be gear, that implies that we have a Crystal of Atlan situation where it's going to be a game where you can go in, you can pay for better gear, you can get to end game before everyone else, you can get better stats before everyone else. And that really just contradicts what MMOs are all about. MMOs are all about the grind. They're all about getting in there and putting your best foot forward and putting in the most effort and the most grind to be able to get the high-end stuff and then do the high-end content. And that's a really fun journey for a lot of people. MMOs are kind of about that journey, right? And if you put a gacha in for gear or for anything that gives stats, it doesn't even have to be gear, right? It could just be like a cosmetic thing like Crystal of Atlan that gives you stats. I think that's...
Gacha, I feel, needs to be only cosmetic. well, especially in this game. We'll just say in Blue Protocol Star Resonance, it needs to be only cosmetic, mounts, etc.
Like fundamentally a really bad thing for MMOs. I don't think that should be a thing. When I played the beta for Blue Protocol Star Resonance, I was really stoked because all I could find that was gacha was cosmetics. And I feel like that is something that is so rare now. It's so hard to find anime games or MMOs that don't have like some kind of gacha system or like just pay for power progression. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a gacha system. Oh no. And I looked at it, it's all cosmetics. And I'm like, that's the best way to do it. I mean, granted, I still want farmable cosmetics. So hopefully there's plenty of those in the game. But when you launch an MMO, being able to play dress up and, you know, be fashionable is quite important. But what is more important than that is being able to grind out gear. That is the most important thing, honestly, because that's the gameplay loop of the game, right? So.
And it was really awesome that they implemented that and had that. They had the cosmetics in the later bosses where you could farm out a weapon appearance, gotcha weapon appearances, and then grindable weapon appearances. Perfect, but not if you're doing gotcha for just better weapons, better stats. Yeah.
So if we're gonna take gear or cosmetics in a gacha and we get to choose one, I'm choosing cosmetics because they don't affect the game, right? Like they affect how cool you look when you walk around town, but it's not the end of the world if you didn't get the newest green dress for your cat girl, right? Like you will live. But if you're in a raid group and everyone has the best in slot gear pieces because they all swiped and then you haven't been able to grind it out yet because you could just swipe for the gear, but like if you don't swipe for the gear, it takes way longer. That's bad. That's not good. Now, if you guys are wondering,
I think Tower of Fantasy was also similar to this. I remember, yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Wondering what the kind of gear that they would put it on would be, assuming that it's still gear to begin with, right? Because they could have changed it. But here, this is kind of what it's looking like. So these are called Imagines, and essentially what these do is you slot them onto your character, and they count as an extra ability that also has a passive effect. So that way you get more stats out of these, and you get an ability usually. And they're really interesting because it's kind of like the Wuthering Waves ecosystem, where you can take one of these guys and you can choose like what the best thing for your class is or your play style, and then you slot it in. And then you kind of progress that the same way you progress your character and abilities. And this
It's a freaking grind for the gold Imagines.
sort of thing is really cool. But apparently, allegedly, the gacha is for these Imagines. So if that is the case, if it is a gacha system for Imagines, I personally think that would be not very good. The thing is, technically, you can get these as a free-to-play player, and that would be regardless of whether they like drop from something or if you save up the gacha currency from playing the game. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think gachaing for power in any sense, or paying for power in any sense, the ability to pay for power definitively ruins social games. Games that are multiplayer, I think it really hurts them. Pay for power,
pay to win, pay for convenience. What's the point of even playing free to play if you could just swipe and then you swipe, get to the end game, then you don't want to even play it anymore because you had no player progression.
In single player doesn't matter at all, but pay for power with PvP matters. Pay for power with things that it has like co-op PvE where you want to get gear and you want to be the best, you want to progress your character, and then like somebody else just spent like $30 every day for the past 2 months, so they're ahead of you even though they play for like an hour a day. Like that sucks. And I really think that if they did go this route and they did put the Imagines in a gacha system, that would fundamentally ruin a lot of the progression, especially for the Western audience. I know that historically there have been a lot of Korean MMOs and Chinese MMOs where you can pay for power, and that's like a pretty like normal thing. Like the first thing that comes to mind is Black Desert Online, the Korean MMO, but you can just swipe to get like a lot of extra in-game stuff, right?
But that's not what the Western audience needs or wants or whatever.
And it's not all cosmetic. There's a lot of things that benefit you in the Black Desert store. It has been like 10 years since I played that game, so I don't remember anything off the top of my head. But I remember when I was playing it, I was like, huh, okay, it really wants me to swipe right now. One of the things I know you could do in Black Desert Online was you could buy the premium currency, spend it on things, and then sell those things. So you could basically RMT, which was not great. But yeah, so, you know, if they put these Imagines in a gacha system, I think that would be very bad for the game. I think that would really hurt the global audience. But I also think at the same time, doing a delayed release would also hurt the global audience. And I'm kind of worried that if they stack these things up, it'll really impact the amount of people that are interested in playing this game, myself included. I'm really a big proponent of MMOs, and I'm excited for my first like big anime MMO that has like a massive budget. I'm excited for this to release. I'm excited to play it. And if I can play on CN, I will. Probably have to be whitelisted, so I probably can't play on CN. But if I could play on CN and cover it, I would be happy to. But the problem is, like, you know, for me as a content creator too, like if I want to cover this game, like there's not gonna be anyone to watch it because they're all in CN and nobody in NA is playing the game yet because it hasn't come out. So
right, nobody's gonna be able to talk about it. You can't relate with anybody if everybody's talking NCN, unless you're Chinese yourself.
You know, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong with releasing this first in another region. So hopefully they do have a simultaneous release, and hopefully they don't do gacha for power. Maybe they'll do something where they'll make these sort of like cosmetic or weapon effects, or maybe their abilities will be the same, but it'll just change the thing that's doing the ability. I don't know. Maybe they'll make it so it's not pay for progression or pay for power. But I do think that if it is any sort of stat buffs from being able to spend a premium currency, that is a net negative for the game. So hopefully the game isn't just dead on release because of the system. Hopefully this is something that they've thought through, or that honestly they'll just...
Or here's the biggest thing, is that there's always that talk about like they can do what they want to do in China, but they just don't do it in global. There it is. You know, there's a lot of talk of that.
Revert if it is a pay for power system, because pay for power doesn't fly with me. It doesn't fly with a lot of people. But I really do. I mean, I'm so excited for this game and I want it to succeed, but there's a couple things that MMOs need to succeed, right? If you're an MMO developer and you want to find success in 2025, first off, you need to solidify a niche. Like, what's your game about? And does it have enough people that are interested in the thing? You need to make sure you have a simultaneous global release. You need to not have pay for power. You need to have tons of content that's repeatable and not limited per day. I mean, obviously you can have some limited content. Like if you look at like WoW and Final Fantasy, they have weekly lockouts for raids like that. Yeah. That's fair because...
And also story. But hear me out there. We're also having some time gated with the story. And if that goes over to global, that's going to be another Tower Fantasy situation. But hopefully, of course, again, that was, from what we're understanding, is that was just for the beta so they can make sure that they roll out the content properly. But yeah, time gating is another huge thing.
It's like there's still plenty of stuff to do outside of the raids. So it's like okay that there's a little bit of limited content because there's so much not limited content, right? So that's fine, but there needs to be stuff to do, essentially. And then I think this one's kind of optional, the fifth one. I think PvP is good for MMOs because it gives people something to do when they don't want to PvE, which I think a lot of people do get tired of at times. And then, of course, you also need number 6, which is fashion. I think fashion, or we can just get rid of PvP and say that one's optional. We can say 5 is fashion. You need to have fashion for MMOs. That is so important. You guys, I don't know.
Especially in an anime MMO, the amount of people RPing, man.
How many of you guys play MMOs, or how many of you guys just watch my channel for some reason? But like MMOs without fashion fall flat so fast because what people want to do is they just want to look like cool as fuck.
Yep.
Like they just want to look so sick at the end of the game. They get to their end game gear, they kill all the bosses, and then they stand around AFK in the center of town wearing their like really menacing armor. Or if they're Final Fantasy, they're just like a half naked cat girl in Limsa Lominsa. You know, like that's good shit. That's the shit we like to see. So, you know, I really hope that 1, we get a global release, and then 2, they do away with the gacha system. But also, if they keep it up with the good things out of the beta, like I like their cosmetics in the beta and things like that, then they will have fashion, they will have endgame, and they already have so many pillars of what makes a good MMO. So hopefully they can continue that. I really hope we don't see pay for power. You know, if they delay the release of global compared to CN, I would hope that if nothing else, the pay for power wouldn't be in the global release, but I would still love to play this game at launch. I mean, this is something we've all been waiting for years. So to when it releases in China, and I don't think you can exactly VPN to there, but maybe there's something you can do to download the game. We'll see. If anyone...
Hey, we just need to get whitelisted to play some more so then we can play before global. Or there's just not a big delay between each two.
When in China wants to help me out with getting access to the game, hit me up. You know where to find me. But anyway, so that's been the newest update on Blue Protocol. Release date is confirmed, but they did add a gacha system, and we don't know what's in the gacha system because they didn't give us all the
They added it, but it could just still be just added for China. July 7th, added gacha for... hopefully no pay to win Imagine.
Details in the dev letter. I will link the 2 dev letters if you guys want to see everything that they said. It is a lot of stuff relating to just small tweaks and changes they've made since the beta, but there's also a couple major things in there as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want me to cover Blue Protocol, let me know down in the comments below, and I will catch you guys next time. Oh, and if for some reason anyone from the Blue Protocol Star Residence team sees this video, please simultaneous release, bro. I want to play this game so bad. Also, if you add like a Rin outfit or a Rin inspired outfit, you will make billions of dollars.
Not just Rin. There is literally so many things that they can make. Sword Art Online, you know, I left my A rank party. You know, there's so many anime. Anyways, I agree with Braxophone. Make sure you like, sub,